Lying in that hospital bed, barely able to move, I never imagined my biggest pain wouldn't come from my injuries, but from betrayal. My father's legacy, everything he worked for, was gone. Not lost. Stolen. This is a story of trust, deception, and the fight to reclaim what's rightfully mine. Before we get into the story, let us know where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I never thought about money growing up. Not because we had a lot of it, but because my dad, James, never made it seem like something to worry about. He worked hard, ran his own auto repair shop, and made sure we had what we needed. It was just the two of us. My mom passed away when I was a baby, too young to remember her. Dad never talked much about her, but I knew he loved her. I could see it in the way he kept her picture on his nightstand, how he never missed a chance to take flowers to her grave. He never remarried, not until I was a teenager. That's when Laura came into our lives. At first, I wanted to like her. She wasn't mean, not exactly. Just distant. She smiled when my dad was around, but when it was just us, there was this unspoken thing between us, like I was always in the way. And then there was her son, Eric. I was 17 when they moved in. Eric was the same age as me, but that's where our similarities ended. While I spent my afternoons at the shop with Dad, learning how to change oil and rebuild engines, Eric spent his playing video games and going on expensive shopping sprees. And the thing was, Laura let him. She treated him like he was some prince, and my dad, he tried to keep things fair. He always made sure I knew that no matter what, the business and everything he built would be mine one day. I didn't really think much of it at the time. Why would I? Dad was healthy, the shop was doing well, and I figured we had years before anything had to be decided. But looking back, I remember the way Laura reacted when she overheard my dad talking about the will. The way she smiled, too tight, too forced, while her hands gripped her coffee cup just a little too hard. I should have paid attention. But I was too busy living my life. Too busy working at the shop, saving up for my own car, planning for college. And then one night, everything changed. I was riding my motorcycle home from work when I saw the truck. It was coming fast, too fast. I barely had time to react. Brakes screeched. Headlights filled my vision. And then, impact. Everything after that was a blur. The pain hit first, sharp and unbearable, like my body was being crushed from the inside out. I remember flashes, sirens, voices shouting, my own breath coming in short, uneven gasps. Then, nothing. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, barely able to move. My whole body felt broken, because in a way it was. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, a concussion so bad I could hardly think straight. I was alive, but just barely. I kept asking for my dad. Over and over, every time a nurse or doctor came in. But he never showed. At first, I thought maybe he was just busy. Maybe he couldn't handle seeing me like this. I had no idea the truth was so much worse. Days passed. Then weeks. The hospital room became my whole world. White walls, stiff sheets, the steady beeping of machines, it all blurred together. My body felt like it didn't belong to me anymore. Every movement was a battle, every breath a reminder that something inside me wasn't right. But none of that hurt as much as the silence. My dad still hadn't come. No calls. No visits. Nothing. At first, the nurses told me not to worry. He's probably just busy, they said. Accidents like this take time for families to process. But that didn't make sense. My dad wasn't the type to leave me alone. If he wasn't here, something was wrong. Then one afternoon the door opened, and it wasn't him. It was Laura. She walked in, dressed like she had somewhere more important to be. Neat hair, expensive purse, that same tight smile she always wore when she had to pretend she cared. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, voice dripping with fake sympathy. "I'm so glad you're awake." I stared at her, waiting for the explanation I knew she had. But she just stood there, looking around the room like she was inspecting a hotel she wasn't sure about. I swallowed hard. My throat was dry, my voice barely above a whisper. "Where's Dad?" Her face changed. Just for a second. The smile twitched, faltered. But then she recovered, stepping closer to my bed. She sighed, reaching for my hand like she had the right. "I didn't want to tell you like this," she said softly. "I wanted to wait until you were stronger." My heart pounded. Something felt off. She hesitated, then squeezed my fingers. Your dad, he passed away 2 weeks ago. The room tilted. Or maybe it was just me. I couldn't breathe. My chest ached in a way that had nothing to do with my injuries. Gone? Just like that? And no one told me? I tried to speak, but the words stuck in my throat. Laura sighed again, like this was hard for her. It all happened so fast, she murmured. A heart attack. He was devastated about your accident. I didn't want to stress you while you were healing. No, this didn't make sense. My dad was healthy. Strong. He wasn't the kind of man who just died. My hands clenched into weak fists. Why didn't anyone tell me? Laura looked away. I thought it was best to wait. Best for who? I wanted to argue, wanted to demand answers, but my body was too weak. The words wouldn't come. And then, she hit me with the real blow. She sat back, pressing her lips together like she was choosing her next words carefully. I know James wanted to leave you everything, but with you being so unwell, the lawyers said it would be best for me to handle things. I blinked, trying to process what she was saying. She hesitated, as if rehearsing the next part. I had to make some hard decisions. The business, it was struggling. I had no choice but to sell it. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Sell it? The shop my dad built from nothing? The one we both worked at? Laura kept talking like she hadn't just ripped my world apart. And the house, well, Eric needed a place to stay, and with the medical bills. My stomach twisted. I forced out the only question that mattered. Where's the money? Her expression didn't change. Not really. But something flickered in her eyes. Something cold. She exhaled sharply. Sweetheart, there is no money. Lies. I knew it. I could feel it. But I was trapped. Weak. Lying in that hospital bed, completely powerless. And Laura? She knew it too. The days after Laura's visit felt like a fog. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw my dad's face. Heard his laugh. Remembered the way he'd pat me on the back after a long day at the shop and say, "One day this will all be yours." But now, it was gone. Everything. And Laura expected me to just accept it. I couldn't. Even through the haze of painkillers and exhaustion, something about her story didn't sit right with me. The way she spoke. The way she avoided my eyes. It all felt off. But what could I do? I was stuck in this hospital, barely able to walk, with no home to go back to. So, I did the only thing I could do. I paid attention. The recovery trap. Recovery was brutal. Months of physical therapy, relearning how to move, how to be in my own body again. Every session left me exhausted, but I pushed through. Because I had to. Laura was too helpful. She showed up just enough to seem caring, but always left before I could ask too many questions. She'd drop off supplies, smile, make a comment about how everything is being taken care of, and then vanish. And Eric? He never showed up. Not once. But I heard about him. From the nurses, from small talk between visitors. He was thriving. A new car. Expensive clothes. Nights out at fancy restaurants. Something didn't add up. If the business was sold because we were struggling, if the money was gone, then where was Eric getting all this cash? The first clue. One afternoon, while I was struggling through another therapy session, Laura showed up. She didn't expect me to be out of my room, so she waited, phone in hand, tapping her nails against the screen. She was texting someone. I couldn't see much, but I caught a glimpse of a name. Eric. And then, a message. Don't worry, he still has no idea. My stomach clenched. I kept my face blank as I rolled past her in the wheelchair, pretending I hadn't seen anything. But inside? I was burning. Testing the waters. That night, I asked the nurse for my phone. It had been damaged in the accident, but I managed to charge it long enough to check my messages. Nothing from my dad. Not a single missed call. That didn't make sense. Even if he had been worried about me, he would have called. Something. And then I noticed something even stranger. My call log, it had been wiped. Not by me. Someone had erased everything. I clenched my jaw, my hands shaking as I gripped the phone. Laura had been here when I was unconscious. She had access to my things. Had she gone through my phone? Deleted messages? Covered her tracks? I didn't know yet. But what I did know was that I couldn't trust her. And if I wanted to find out the truth, I had to play along. A game of patience. I stopped asking questions. Stopped pushing. I let Laura think I was too weak, too tired to care. And in return, she got comfortable. She stopped hiding her conversations when I was in the room. She started talking about finances in front of me. Her finances. Eric's finances. And that's when I learned something that made my blood run cold. She hadn't just sold my dad's business. She had drained everything. Bank accounts. Investments. My inheritance. And funneled it all into Eric's name. I felt sick. This wasn't about money problems. This was theft. And my father? He had never agreed to this. The final piece. The breakthrough came when I finally convinced a nurse to let me borrow a laptop. I logged into my dad's old email account, one I remembered helping him set up years ago. It was still active. And inside? A single unread message from his lawyer. Subject: urgent change to estate plan. I clicked on it, my heart hammering in my chest. The email was dated 3 days before my accident. James, I received your request to update your will and revoke the existing power of attorney. Please call me at your earliest convenience so we can finalize the paperwork. As of now, Laura still retains control over your estate. Let me know how you'd like to proceed. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking. My dad knew. He knew something wasn't right. And 3 days later? He was dead. This wasn't just about money. This was something worse. Something planned. And I was next. I sat there for a long time, staring at that email. Everything felt like it clicked into place all at once. Laura had power of attorney. My dad had wanted to change that. Then, before he could, he was gone. And now the business, the house, my inheritance, everything, was in her hands. Not by accident. By design. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just about money. This wasn't just greed. Laura and Eric had planned this. And I'd been too weak, too broken to see it. But not anymore. Now, I knew the truth. And I was going to do something about it. Playing the long game. The first thing I did was nothing. I sat on that information. Let it settle. Let it burn. Because I knew if I came at Laura now, with nothing but an old email and my gut feeling, she'd brush me off. She'd gaslight me. She'd win. So I stayed quiet. I played the part. Weak. Defeated. I let her think she had won. I let her believe I was still the broken, helpless guy in a hospital bed. And in the meantime, I started gathering proof. Digging for answers. The first real break came from an unexpected place, one of my dad's former employees. His name was Roy. He had been working at the shop since before I was born, and when he heard what had happened to me, he reached out. I don't like how things went down, kid, he said over the phone. Your dad, he wasn't himself those last few weeks. I gripped the receiver, my pulse pounding. What do you mean? Roy sighed. He was stressed. Kept talking about how he needed to make some changes. Said he didn't trust someone anymore. A chill ran down my spine. Laura. It had to be Laura. Roy hesitated before continuing. A week before your accident, he pulled me aside. Asked if I knew anything about offshore accounts. My breath hitched. Offshore accounts? Yeah. He was trying to track down some missing money. Said he thought someone was stealing from him. But before he could do anything about it, well. Roy didn't need to finish the sentence. Before he could do anything, my dad was gone. And I was lying in a hospital bed, completely unaware. I swallowed hard. Did he ever find out who was stealing from him? Another pause. Then, Roy's voice, quieter now. He suspected Laura. The second break. That conversation changed everything. If my dad knew money was going missing, then Laura had been stealing before his death. Which meant this wasn't a desperate move to stay afloat after losing him. This was a scheme. A long con. And I needed more proof. I started calling around. Old employees. Business partners. The family lawyer. Most people didn't want to talk. But one did. A man named Victor, my dad's accountant. I probably shouldn't be telling you this, he said, voice low. But there's something you need to see. Proof in black and white. The next day, Victor met me in a coffee shop. I still wasn't moving great. My leg was stiff, my ribs ached, but I showed up. Because this was bigger than my pain. Victor slid a folder across the table. Bank statements, he said. Business accounts, personal accounts. Look at the withdrawals. I opened the folder, my stomach tightening as I scanned the numbers. Thousands of dollars. Hundreds of thousands. Transferred out in small chunks, just below the amount that would trigger suspicion. And the destination? An offshore account. One under Eric's name. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth hurt. Victor exhaled. Your dad found out about this. He was furious. Said he was going to confront Laura. The next day he called me, said he wanted to change his will. Then. He didn't need to finish. I gripped the folder, my hands shaking. I had proof now. Real, tangible evidence. And I knew exactly what to do with it. Setting the trap. I couldn't go straight to the police. Not yet. Laura was careful. She'd spin some sob story, make it seem like it was all a misunderstanding. I needed to make sure she couldn't talk her way out of this. So I set a trap. I asked Laura to meet me. Told her I wanted to talk about the future. She agreed instantly. She thought she won. That I was coming to her for help. But really? I was just giving her enough rope to hang herself. Laura arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes late. She swept in like she owned the place, dressed in one of her expensive coats, the kind she never could have afforded before my dad passed. Eric was right behind her, grinning like he had already won. I sat at the table, cane resting against my leg, forcing myself to look small. Weak. Like I still needed them. Let them think that. Let them believe they were untouchable. Because in a few minutes, that was all about to change. The moment of truth. Sweetheart, Laura said, her voice all honey and lies. It's so good to see you out and about. I was worried about you. She reached for my hand. I didn't let her touch me. Instead, I slid my phone onto the table. She blinked. What's this? I hit play. And her own voice filled the space between us. He thinks I'm just helping him with the business. But once it's all signed over, it won't matter. Eric flinched. Laura's face didn't move at first. Then slowly, her lips parted. Where did you get that? I leaned forward, my heart pounding in my ears. You stole from me, I said, my voice steady. You stole from my father. And now, everyone's going to know. Her eyes darted around, like she was trying to find a way out. I don't know what you think you have, but... I slid the folder onto the table. Bank statements, I said. Showing transfers from Dad's business to an offshore account. The one in Eric's name. Eric made a strangled sound. Mom. I ignored him. I have witness statements. From Dad's accountant. His lawyer. His employees. All of them remember how he was afraid in his last days. How he was planning to cut you off. Laura swallowed hard. I wasn't done. I have proof that you forced him to sign over power of attorney while I was in the hospital. That you used it to drain everything. That you lied to me about selling the business, because I know the money didn't go to debts or medical bills. I sat back, staring her down. You took everything from me. From him. Her hands trembled against the table. Eric looked like he wanted to run. I wasn't going to let them. Justice, served. Laura tried to deny it at first. She threw out excuse after excuse. It was for the family. Your father would have wanted this. I had to. But I didn't care. I stood up, gripping my cane, looking her dead in the eyes. It's over, I said. And then? I walked away. Because the truth was, I didn't need her to admit anything. I already had everything I needed. And by the next morning, so did my lawyer. And the police. The aftermath. The lawsuit was brutal. Laura and Eric fought it every step of the way, but the evidence was airtight. The fraudulent transfers. The abuse of power of attorney. The proof that my dad was trying to change his will before he died. The court didn't just take my side. It tore them apart. Eric lost everything. His new car? Gone. His lifestyle? Over. That money they stole? Seized. And Laura? She didn't just lose the house, the business, and the money. She lost her freedom. Because when all was said and done, she wasn't just guilty of fraud. She was guilty of theft. And she was going to prison for it. Moving forward. It wasn't easy after that. The business was in shambles by the time I got it back. The house? Not much better. But it was mine. Not because someone handed it to me, but because I fought for it. Because I made sure my father's legacy didn't die with him. And as for Laura and Eric? Last I heard, she was still behind bars. And Eric? Well, turns out, without stolen money, he wasn't much of anything at all. I don't think about them much anymore. I have better things to focus on. Like rebuilding. Like living. Like honoring my dad's memory. Because in the end, I didn't just win back what was mine. I won back everything they tried to take from me. And that's justice.